Hello, I'm Sarah Robinson. I'm senior journalist at Nautilus International, and today I've got with me my colleague Richard Moti, who's executive officer at Nautilus in the Netherlands branch. Welcome, Richard.
Good morning, Sarah. Nice to see you.
I'm going to talk to Richard today about pensions in the Netherlands because Nautilus has been involved in a big campaign to improve the pension terms for our members. Richard, would you like to give me a bit of context into why you're doing this campaign now?
Well, in the Netherlands, the government raised the pension age a couple of years ago. So everybody has to work until they're 67 years old before they can get a state pension. And that number is still rising because there's a relation with the average age in the Netherlands. So people who are now around 40 years old, they have to work until they are 70 years or something like that, are the predictions. And what we see is that this is very difficult for people with heavy jobs. If you work with irregular hours, night shifts, if you have a physical job like in working in the constructions, it's almost impossible to get you to reach your pension age in a healthy way. So that's why the unions are campaigning for the possibility of to have an early retirement scheme. At this moment, there is a possibility to make an arrangement between an employer and employee to retire 3 years earlier before the state pension age. But that agreement is ending next year, in 2025, and we are campaigning now to extend that arrangement.
Thank you. And what kind of pensions are we talking about here? So does the campaign only affect state pensions, or is it to do with employer or private pensions as well?
Well, the state pension will still remain on 67, and in the next years it will rise. So that's not what we are arguing about with the government. But what the government does is that everybody who retires early gets a fine. That's a law in the Netherlands. So it's quite difficult here to make an early retirement arrangement because the fine is really heavy. It's about 100% of the arrangement you get. So if you make an arrangement with your employer to have an early retirement for, say, 1 year, and that arrangement costs 20,000 euros, the government taxes that arrangement with also 20,000 euros. So it's really expensive to agree to make an agreement between a worker and an employer to have an early retirement arrangement. That's why we in the past advocated a new law and to abolish this tax fine. And the government listened to that, but they only implemented temporarily, and that law will still be valid after 2025. And what we are campaigning for now is to abolish that law permanent, to make it possible for everybody with a heavy job, who work night shifts, who work like seafarers, long hours, irregular hours, to make it possible for them to have an early retirement scheme without having the absurd fine from the government.
So are you happy with what you achieved before was to abolish the fine, but it was only temporary? Is there anything else that you'd like to make permanent in the next stage of the campaign?
What this campaign is about are actually three things. We want a permanent agreement with the government that the early pension schemes are possible not only for a couple of years, but are permanent possible. The second demand we have is that the cap of these schemes made higher because now it's only possible to have an arrangement, an early retirement arrangement, without paying the fine of around 25,000 euros, and we want that higher, so it will be financially better for people with a heavy job to make better arrangements. Third demand is that the government does not interfere in deciding what is a heavy job or not. Unions and employers are very capable to do that themselves, and we don't need politicians to interfere with that.
And how is that going? Have you
Well,
managed to get some promises from the government? And who else are we working with on the campaign?
Well, this campaign is a very broad campaign with a lot of unions in the Netherlands, especially the FNV, which is the biggest union in the Netherlands, and Nautilus is also part of the federation of the FNV. And we are campaigning now for this for a couple of months. We started before the summer, and also after the summer we continued our campaign. At this moment, the campaign is really getting a bit harder. We start in several sectors. Workers started with industrial actions. And also as Nautilus, we joined these actions not by having strikes, but by signing petitions. More than 2,500 members, seafarers, have signed a petition for a better early retirement scheme. And we also had some actions like sounding the ship horns when they are in ports, and just make some noise to get some attention for this important issue.